Hi, I am Mary McCarthy. We are live on LinkedIn for my weekly show, The Data Tea. I'm joined this week by a very good friend, Sadie St Lawrence. She's the founder and CEO of Women in Data. Sadie, so happy to have you here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be chatting with you again. I feel like you have the best questions, and it's always an honor to be interviewed by Mary. And there's no other better name than the Data Tea. So let's spill some tea today.
The women on our team actually who came up with the title, The Data Tea. So I can't claim it, but it's caught on. I'm glad to hear. So Sadie, you've had a pretty amazing career as a data scientist and instructor. Tell me a bit about that so we know who you are before you went out and founded Women in Data.
Yeah, so I saw a great meme the other day that said all data careers start in data analyst roles. And I think it's so true because my first title ever was as a research analyst. And I wanted to be in data science just like everybody else, but couldn't get a job in data science right away. So I had to start off as a research analyst. And then I moved into an analytics enablement engineer. And then I got my dream job of being a data scientist in a healthcare company. And then I got to go and lead a data science team. And that was amazing. And you always want that next challenge. So I really fell in love with the strategy side of things and was an AI strategy consultant. And then also today now I lead Women in Data full time as the founder and CEO. So it's been a fun and interesting journey. And all throughout that time, I have loved teaching and have taught a couple classes and designed some curriculum. It's just such a great way for me to learn, but get to know more people and also get back to the community that's given so much to me as well.
Are you one of the most popular instructors on Coursera or on one of the online platforms? Or you had a ranking. So
Yeah, so almost 400,000 people have taken the class today
on
and on Coursera. And yeah, I know I was the first female instructor in data science on the platform. So that was really exciting. And I think what made me most proud of it all, though, was the course ended up becoming a specialization, and they made sure the rest of the teachers were also female or co-taught with a female. And so I think it just goes to show that when you become that first person to stand up and break down those barriers, you have the opportunity to bring other women alongside with you and change those diversity metrics and really change what the face of it looks like. So that's honestly one of the things I'm most proud about with the class as well.
And 400,000, I mean, it's just fascinating to think about. That's not even the future of education, but the present of education, that you design and teach a good course and you can reach 400,000 people. I mean, it's mind-blowing. And it's what's powerful about many of these online data communities. Now you can, whether you go to Coursera, another paid platform, or you just go to YouTube, you can get these amazing courses, build up your education without having to go to a fancy university. Not that the fancy universities aren't worth it. They're worth it for some things, but you can also get Sadie and great instructors without doing that. Before you tell me more about Women in Data and then why you founded it, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit because, you and I are obviously advocates of women in data and tech. But that's an echo chamber. Like all of us, we're in our own echo chambers, and you and I are surrounded by people who advocate for these things. And not a lot of people really understand why it's necessary to advocate for these things. I mean, the numbers on undergraduates, for example, undergraduate degrees in the US, the percentage of women who have math degrees, I think 40% of those go to women. So there's a good representation of women on the market, who are qualified at math and statistics. The numbers certainly in computer science aren't that high, but they're growing. Again, we go out and learn all these things we need to learn online. Education is so accessible. So why does it matter that we still support women in getting into these careers?
Yeah, so just a fundamental belief I have is that everyone should have the opportunity to live out their purpose and the life they want, right? And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. And what I've seen through the data again is unfortunately in a lot of technical careers, that ability to live out that passion and purpose of having that career for women is not available. And there are countless benefits to having diverse teams, from increases in revenue and productivity we see. There's also just new innovations that come out when you have diverse thought. But I always look at things at an individual level. Like, I love big data. We can share all the statistics of like how much your productivity and your revenue will increase by having diversity on your team. But like at an individual level, right? As an individual person, it's so important to advocate for women, because we want to make sure everybody can live the life they want to live and live out their purpose fully. And today, unfortunately, we don't see that happening for allowing women to have a sense of belonging in a technical career. And that's a big barrier, is not being able to see yourself in that role because you don't see anyone else like yourself there. So that's a big problem. Or then if you're able to break through that first barrier and get there, you feel a sense of loneliness because you don't look like everyone else or feel like everyone else. And when you have that sense of loneliness and you're missing that sense of belonging, you're less likely to speak up, to share your ideas, to take risks. And if you're a manager, you want everyone on your team to be able to take risks, to share their ideas, to be able to innovate. So making sure that there's diversity across the board in your technical teams will not only increase the overall mental health of your employees and help them perform better, but really increase the outcomes of the team and what the company is able to do as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's like a decade at least of research from McKinsey and Accenture and all the big companies saying that diversity brings better business outcomes. So beyond the human level and all of us achieving our human potential in the mental health side, it's good for business. Absolutely. Let's dive into women in data then. Again, you had this phenomenal career. What made you say, I'm going to shift and go full on with supporting or creating a cause like women in data? And how did it start?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of what I call slash careers. So you may have your full-time job, and then, there's a lot of content creators that do that on the side, or you teach on the side, whatever it is. So women in data did not start off as my full-time job. How it started was I was lonely in my career. I was getting my master's degree. I was working as an analyst, and there weren't any women working around me. And I was also very discouraged because it was like, this was 2014. The prospects of what was going to happen in the data industry was huge, and how much impact it was going to have in business and the job opportunities. And I looked around me and was like, if women aren't here from the beginning, like, this trend line isn't pointing up anytime fast. And so something needs to change. And it really started from a personal need for community, but really then also a vision for more equality in the space to increase those pathways and access ways. So it started just with a meetup group. I had one person who attended the first event, and then she ended up bringing two more people. And then today we're a community.
It's like old-fashioned pre-COVID meetup.
Yeah. It was I was a full-time student. I was, first job out of college, so very little resources. It was like, hey, I'm here, and if anybody else wants to come and support and connect, show up. And that's what happened. And today, we're in over 30 countries and have 50 chapters across the world, and a community of over 30,000 people. So it's just incredible to see what happens when you really just show up and say, hey, I'm here to connect, and I want to make a difference, and the right people will come around you to support and drive that mission forward.
And what are the nuts and bolts of it now? It's very much an online community. There's also mentorship classes. What are the offerings of Women in Data?
So we've gone through all the things, right? We started in-person events at local chapters, and it really has all developed from the needs of the community. As we talk to people with our in-person events and local chapters, we saw that people were taking educational classes and still having trouble getting jobs. So that's what led us to create our residency program. And then we found that people were feeling discouraged in their career and needed more guidance. And that was what caused us to create our mentorship program. And so now it's a hybrid of still the local chapters and communities that just this month are starting to meet back in person, which is exciting. But then also a ton of programs to support women at every stage of their career, from learning pathways to life coaching to mentorship to portfolio builder classes. It really has expanded from the first original meetup. So it's a hybrid approach between a full online global community that you can access the programs, and then local chapters and subgroups that you can meet with in person or virtually.
I've attended a lot of these events. Obviously, I remember the latest one, I think it was the Denver branch, and it was like, dinner time around 6:37. And there was this huge turnout and all this very serious discussion. And I was so impressed because I just don't think there's a lot of industries where, anyone, man or woman, would take the time for an hour out of their day, of the evening after work. And I think it just speaks to certainly the ambition of women in data, not the organization, but individuals. And also just the intellectual excitement. Like there's always so much to learn, always so much changing that most of us in our data roles don't have the chance to, talk about that stuff during the day. So, why not make the time to do that, even if it's, you have to pack it into a busy schedule. I think it's amazing. So in addition to those meetups, you also have mentorship and classes. I think I'm not as up to date on what you guys offer.
Yeah, so essentially you can come in and you don't have to join a chapter. You can just join Women in Data wherever you're located. And if there's a local chapter, you're welcome to connect with that. But there's live coaching that you can sign up for ad hoc throughout the month. There's mentorship, there's learning pathways. So we have a data analyst learning pathway that runs throughout the year. And it's a series of classes that you'll take to get a certificate. There's also the data science and machine learning pathway, and we're continuing to add more learning pathways. And then once you're done with your learning pathways, you can take a portfolio builder class, which will help you to build that online portfolio to help get hired. And then there's also the residency program, which you get work experience to be able to refine those presentation and client relationship skills to really prepare you for the job. And then just recently we added a career services, which allows you to add your resume. So our partners, sponsors, and organizations can have easier access to diverse talent for hiring as well. So always new things coming out within. I'm sure we will continue to grow as we just hear from our members and what they need and continue to add those services to our portfolio.
Yeah, and I know you guys are experiencing, from my perspective, phenomenal growth. I just follow your metrics on LinkedIn. You're at, is it, well over 20,000 followers on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think we just hit like 27,000, so it's really incredible.
And from all over the globe. That's amazing. I'm curious first of all, I want to take a question from a viewer, Christine Z. Hi, Christine. She wants to know specifically what Coursera course you taught. And is it still, I want to add to that, is it still available if we want to go?
It is, and it's SQL for data science.
That'd be a good one. Yeah, I'm writing a blog about something related to that, so maybe I will check it out. So I want to know, you obviously for many years were a data practitioner. Now you wear many different hats, or you have many slashes in your title, as you'd say. Do you get frustrated by not having necessarily the time to sit down and do a few hours of data every day, and for the fun of it, but also to keep up your skills? Because a lot of these things, if you don't keep doing it, it's not like riding a bike, in my experience.
It takes a little bit longer than that. That's a great question, because when I left my job as an AI strategy consultant and came into Women in Data full-time about a year and a half ago, I knew I would be giving up the amount of time I would be spending day-to-day working on data problems. Even though Women in Data has Women in Data in the title, my job has changed in terms of what I do of growing and leading the organization. And so, yes, there are parts of me that miss it, but a big filler for that has been having the Data Bites podcast, by being able to talk to people. And now by working with our community to design new educational programs, I get to not only just use my expertise, but now tap into other people and learn from their expertise as well. So teaching still plays a big role in it. I think one of the best ways for me to learn is to actually teach. So I will always make sure I have a portion of that within my work. And then it's allowed me to expand my technical knowledge. So I think one of the the greatest things that can happen to each of us is we reach like this Maslow's hierarchy of needs within our career, right? We've got our first job, then we moved up, we got our dream job, we've kind of reached this pinnacle. And hopefully when you reach that pinnacle, you have this feeling and need to give back. And that's really what happened for me within Women in Data is like, okay, I have this knowledge now. I want to be able to give back and pass it forward. And because of that, that refuels the lack of how much time I can spend having the day-to-day working in Python or working on big data problems.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, how teaching is a way of staying on top of your skills, certainly, because students too, they learn fast and they're always challenging you, right? And probably with the newer technologies, there's people, sorry, but who've only been doing this for 6 months who are better than you at something, certainly better than me. That's amazing. What do you think about the current job market for data professionals? You said that you started as an analyst in the kind of peak hype around data science. Everybody wanted to start out as a data scientist. There's like, in my view, essentially no entry-level data science roles now. That's probably okay because maybe people should start as analysts anyway. What's your take? Especially when you're teaching and mentoring people, what do you say? Like, these are the roles you should be preparing for, or at least explore.
Yeah, so I'm really grateful that within Women in Data, I get to mentor a lot of people through our mentorship program because it gives me a fresh take on what the job market's like. And I have a lot of empathy for people who are in it right now because it is a struggle and you need a lot of mental tenacity to keep getting back those no's, but not losing that self-confidence to believe in yourself to be able to achieve the job. So one of the things that changes, data science is not really new anymore. It's been around for at least 10 years. And so now companies can request 5 years of experience, right? And so what that has done, and they need people who have that experience because they're low staffed. And so what that's done is it has removed a lot of the entry level positions. However, that doesn't mean attaining your dream job is not possible. I think what it means is we have to get a little bit more creative in how we do it. And I love to break it down in terms of what's the right next best move for me, right? So maybe your target job is a data scientist at a consumer goods company, right? But you're having trouble breaking in the door there. So maybe starting out at a consumer goods company just to get that business knowledge is where you start. Maybe starting out in an analyst position. Most of my positions that I moved around in were within the same company. So much of it is just getting your foot in the door. So I recommend for people to not get discouraged. Keep your vision of what that dream job is in your mind, and then break it down into what's that next best move that I can take today that will get me just one step closer, because experience is everything now within this job market.
Absolutely. And, it's easy to kind of say that, community is important, maintaining your confidence is important. But as someone who pivoted into data from another industry recently, in the last 2 years, I can say that it's so important to hear those messages, especially if you're not surrounded by people who work in these fields, which is the case for a lot of people, especially people who maybe, want to go into tech and data for what really was my reason. I think I've told you my reason was I wanted a much better financial trajectory, right? And the intellectual interest part of it, which fortunately is great, very satisfying. But there's a lot of people going into these fields for a diversity of reasons. The friends who mentored me, kind of unofficially mentored me as I pivoted into data, it was a very similar motivation. So it's and when you're learning and searching for jobs in that context, it's just, I can't emphasize enough what you said, which is the importance of having support and community. And where did I get that? And the reason this show might sound a little bit like a commercial for Women in Data is I got that surprisingly from Women in Data. I met some of you guys online, and you treated me like a peer, not like somebody who had just entered the field. I did have significant experience from another field, but I was very impressed by, and this isn't going to be the experience of everyone going into tech and data, by the lack of gatekeeping, because even if it's hard to land your first job, there's so many roles available. There's so much potential that it's not like people trying to hang on to what they have. There's, people are sharing knowledge. They'll say, I have this job, but I'll point you toward these other jobs. So it's a great community. We have some people chiming in here. I don't know who's asking this question. It just says LinkedIn user asking, how do you offer a how to network course through Women in Data?
Is that something? We did not offer that, but that is a great suggestion. I've also thought about doing one in terms of you can sign up for a mentorship program, but also how to find a mentor. And so I think that's a great suggestion on how to network, because early on in my career, I had a lot of negative connotations toward networking. I didn't like the term of it. I experienced people who just tried to hand you out as many business cards as possible. And then I had a mentor share with me a different framework to think about networking. And they said, I want you to think of networking just as building relationships. And I went, I can build relationships. And I bet anyone listening to this knows how to build a relationship. You have a friend or a family member who you have a relationship, or a coworker even that you maintain it with. And I think if we just use that one little perspective when we think about networking or trying to network, in terms of reframing it as building relationships, it really was a game changer for me. So love the suggestion to start the course. We'll definitely note that down. And in the meantime, that's my one tip for networking is
right. Both networking and mentorship are so intertwined. If you can develop a network, you can probably find a great mentor within that network, or vice versa, right? So great questions, and I'm happy to contribute to any seminars you do on that, because it's something that I've had to learn as well. Women in Data, I imagine, because it's called Women in Data, is probably data driven. How do you study a lot of your internal data, or do you have somebody who's doing that?
Yeah, so I mean, I hope so. It's one of those we need to drink our own champagne kind of thing. But more importantly, just my background is data science. So I come into leading the organization from a very technical mindset of making sure that there's product roadmaps and delivery and milestones. And so a lot of the transformation that we went through when I stepped into the role full time was a typical analytics journey transformation, where to be able to have the right data and to report on it, and then to continue up the progression of predictive models and optimization models, you need to have all the data in a centralized location. So originally, we used Meetup, and we had multiple different tools that we used. And I was like, nope, we need a platform consolidation. And so that was a huge initiative last year, was to come in and re-architect the whole system for how members engage, how chapters work, to have one centralized platform. So that was the first
time. Or did you build something, or did you just buy a software that kind of did
so
that?
we used all cloud systems and architecture, and since we knew we'd be adding a lot more platforms classes into Women in Data, we went with an LMS system, so a learning management system. And so that allowed us to easily consolidate our integration from that standpoint. And so that's really been the first step before we could even start analyzing some of the data and tracking what's been done, was the platform consolidation. And now we're in the phase of being able to start to measure the metrics. Who's taking what classes, what persona people are taking classes, where do we see dropout? And this is really important, not only from just a community building aspect to make sure we're delivering the right content for our community, but more importantly, to solve diversity. I mean, one of the problems with solving diversity in these careers is having good data to understand where the pitfalls were. So I am just so excited about what's being built because of the data that's coming out of it now from a consolidated manner, that we can start to report on it. We can start to see where people fall out. We can start to see where there are struggles. And when we can start to see where those low points are, then we can start to find solutions.
Amazing. And so you're not yet at the point of maybe getting insights out of the data. You're still in the architecting and building phase, it sounds like.
I would say we're in the baseline reporting phase of getting insights from that. So we're very early on in our analytics journey as an organization.
Right. No, that's a great answer, because the reality is, even, if you're run by a data expert, it's a long road to get everything set up to where you're ready to, analyze your data and get some significant insights out of it, and even build up enough data, right? Like you need
Yeah.
so that's fantastic. What's next for you, Sadie? Obviously, this is a long-term thing, being the CEO of Women in Data, but is there like a big project that, that you're doing / in addition to this, or as part of Women in Data, like the next push that we should know about?
Yeah, so I would say anyone who's in a tech career understands that you have to be a lifelong learner. And that is something that I love about being in a tech career, is that there's no getting complacent because there's always new innovations coming out and new tools, etc. And so for me, I just on a personal note, I got really into distributed ledgers and blockchains and NFTs last year, and really enjoyed diving into kind of a new area that was a little bit outside of machine learning. But what it led me to do is to actually bring it back to data and to machine learning. And now I've taken this approach where I really am looking at distributed ledgers as a new data source for your data tech stack and your data architecture. And so from a personal side, that's what I've been learning. And that has then allowed me to bring some of those learnings into Women in Data, where we're getting ready to release a membership token. So an NFT token for members that will help represent an image of what it means to be a Women in Data member, to show the diversity, to show a face of women leading this way, and showing a face of women encoding their language and encoding their place in this new technology, and paying it forward. So really excited about some of that personal learning that's now starting to come into Women in Data, and where that will lead from here.
I wasn't expecting some big fancy announcement like that. And
I wasn't either. You just asked me and I'm like, oh, that's what I'm working on today. So
first, I know you've done some, or Women in Data has done some webinars and stuff on, I think, Web3 and crypto and blockchain, but I didn't know about all these things in the works. Before we wrap up, I want to get a question in here. This is from Anissa Valentine. Hi, Anissa. And she says, how might I access a Women in Data membership? Is it a group, website, Slack channel? And sorry if this was mentioned prior. She joined a few minutes late. Anissa, we didn't actually break that down. So how can somebody join, and what will they get if they join?
Yeah, so it's super straightforward. You just go to womenindata.org, and there's a tab on there that says membership that you can sign up. That will get you into the membership portal, and then you can find chapters and groups. You can find Slack from there. In addition, we do offer scholarships. So if the membership is not accessible to you, we haven't turn anyone to date away for the scholarship. So I definitely would encourage you to apply to that as well. And then once you get into Women in Data, and you get to meet wonderful, lovely ladies like Mary and others, and you are able to join the chapter events. We have global webinars, and then all of the programs and services from educational programs, professional development, and then continuing education support.
Cool. Thanks for that. And thanks for the question, Anissa. And that's a perfect way to end the show. And I need to mention, of course, that Hightouch, my employer, who hosts the show, the Data Tea, the host of the Data Tea officially, we do give for every episode a donation to that scholarship fund at Women in Data, because it's an organization we clearly believe in, and a fund going towards helping women who who might not need that little financial push like a lot of us do when we're first getting into what will become later on a lucrative career for all of us, right?
Yes, exactly.
So anyway, thank you. This has always been, this is always fun. Sadie, I feel like I'm having tea with you, sitting across the kitchen table here with me. And we will talk soon.
Thanks, everybody.